The fitness ring that didn't fit Ma. The ring was small and arrogant, a graphite band that sat on our kitchen counter like a dare. It wasn't mine. Mine is a scratched silver circle with a notch where a workbench once bit it. This band was matte and perfect, with a sensor window like a watchful pupil. It lay on a folded napkin beside the coffee grinder, humming its little green light against the paper. She'd set it there to charge, which meant she wanted it where morning could find it fast. I picked it up, and it warmed to my skin, as if it recognized a member of the same species and had already forgiven me. Mara had taken to the ring the way she takes to new language, fluently, as if she'd been born inside it. The app had come first, announcing recoveries and readiness scores like grades after a test you never sat. She would hold her phone over her coffee and smile at the numbers, then say things like, "My body believes in me today," and kiss me with an optimism she didn't owe me but kept giving anyway. I laughed and rolled my eyes and pretended not to feel a prickle of superstition at the way Data prefers to flirt in the mornings. We used to make mornings slower. In the early months, she'd grind beans while I ironed pillowcases, because flat cotton meant someone had planned for us. She slept with one palm on my ribs, fingers splayed like a map only she could read, and murmured in her sleep sometimes, nonsense that sounded like a password. We ate toast with too much butter and called it an apology to the previous night's wine. Our apartment smelled like coffee and rosemary, which is one way of numbing fidelity. The ring changed the scents first. Rosemary traded for something that lived lower in the throat, citrus pressed over stone, confidence you could spray. Then sound. Her phone adopted a two-note chime, brisk, a doorbell to a smaller house. It tapped out 12, Zara Nun, 12 Thutton 12, Sovington, as if midnight had started keeping score. "London," she said. "They forget I'm human." I nodded and learned to shave by memory when she showered with the lights off. "Migraine," she said, and turned her face away from the mirror as if it had asked too many questions. I didn't plan to look into the ring. I was looking for the coffee scoop when the light on it pulsed and the screen on the charger blinked its invitation. Tap to sync. I touched the glass and the progress wheel turned like a quiet machine deciding to become a witness. The app opened with its cheerful cruelty. A timeline unfurled in blue and red, resting, light, optimal, and then at Zarathra AM, a spike that looked like a small city exploded on a map. Vigorous activity, 23 minutes. Underneath, as if to be helpful, the app added, "Nice work, you're building a streak." We weren't building anything at Zarathra AM. I'd been awake enough to know our bed was only a bed. I stared at the spike until my mind tried to give it names that would make it less insulting: nightmare, stress, bad curry. But the ring added details like a conscientious snitch. Elevated heart rate during inactivity zones. Core temperature plus Zara, Suvandugras Sa, HRV compression. The vocabulary was medical and intimate. It did not belong to me. I still didn't ask. I salted water and watched steam make the kitchen fog up like a bathroom mirror where someone is confessing to nobody. She came home at 7 with the brightness of a person who had gotten away with something that only made her like herself more. She kissed me in that careful way, accurate, affectionate, not hungry, and let her coat drop to the chair. "The ring thinks I'm amazing," she said, tapping the charger with one finger. "I'm a streak." I lifted the pasta with a wooden spoon and pretended to discover the fact of water. We ate. She slipped her foot along my calf under the table like a code our bodies had written years ago and forgotten to retire. Later, in bed, her thigh crossed mine and her breath found the old hitch when my mouth reached the place her breath turns to heat. It was tender and almost enough to make me forgive silence for being eloquent. The next morning the ring congratulated her again. Strain achieved Sovington AM. The optimism felt weaponized. I opened the app while she showered with the lights off and this time noticed the tags. She'd named her late-night spikes sessions. yoga once, breathwork, a label called stairs at 1:33 a.m. She'd also shared her data with Coach N, whose profile picture was a gray circle with a neat little compass emoji. The ring made social out of sweat. It showed a stream of the people she chose to see and be seen by. Coach N had liked 3 of her sessions at hours that didn't belong to anyone reasonable. I took my doubt to the street. The studio she loves is next to a cafe that believes in porcelain saucers. Its front windows advertise breath and better sleep. The owners prefer cash and say community, like a religion you can attend in leggings. I saw him first as a silhouette in the mirror wall. Those studios are lakes with louder acoustics. A man with careful shoulders and a face trimmed by a barber who knows how to make a jaw into a thesis. He stood behind her while she folded forward, one hand hovering above her spine, never quite touching, the way men do when they've already done the touching elsewhere and are practicing restraint like a hobby. He said something that made her laugh silently, head tipped, eyes closed, trust practiced. I watched through glass and heard nothing and learned everything I needed to. I did not storm in. I bought a coffee and burned my tongue and took my questions to a lawyer who keeps her office above a cobbler. It smells like leather and arguments. Outcome or scene, she asked, which is one way to measure who you are. Outcome, I said. Then bring me boring things, she replied. Dates, doors, dollars, and a witness who loves you enough to tell you to sit down. No manifestos by text. Judges break out in hives when the metaphors start. I invited witnesses that wouldn't turn my life into a talent show. Her sister Lena, who can be kind without lying. My friend Avi, who moves a couch without asking where you want it because he already knows. I told them I wanted to celebrate Avi's raise because parties are armor. I cooked too much and the apartment smelled like garlic, telling the truth. At 8 she texted, 15 minutes. At 20 she arrived with wet hair and a hoodie I didn't own tied around her waist. She kissed me in front of them like signatures. We ate. Laughter did its duty. After dessert, I set the ring and its charger on the table between the wine glasses and opened the app. "What's that?" she asked, sweet as a lemon. "Your coach thinks you're amazing," I said, and put the graph on the table with 2 spikes circled in red. The room learned silence like a new instrument. Lena looked at the ring like it had been vagued into existence and decided to be literal. Avi stared at me like a man who had remembered too late that mercy is a skill. "We should talk privately," she said. "We will," I answered, "but witnesses are a good habit." They left us in a room that couldn't decide between evidence and decor. "I wasn't trying to be cruel," she began, which is the opening cruelty prefers. I told myself I was practicing being alive at different hours. She pressed her thumb to the ring's green light and it beat back at us like a tranquil heart. "Is he married?" I asked. She nodded once. "Separating, a son." "Do you love him?" I asked, not because love is a solvent, but because the word forces rooms to agree on gravity. She looked at the ceiling like there were tiles to count. "I love how myself feels when I'm not narrating," she said. "He lets me be in my body without the whole museum tour. With you, I was starting to curate again." "We're going to separate," I told her. I used we like a trained animal. She nodded and the hinge between her collarbones relaxed in a way that made me briefly hate being right. "Do you want me to go now?" she asked. "I want you to stop wearing 2 clocks," I said. "Pick midnight or morning. I'll take the other." She packed fast because leaving is only fast at the end. She took the hoodie and the candle that makes rooms think they can behave. She left the ring. At the door she reached for my wrist with the old code, thumb press where skin goes thin, and changed her mind midair, which hurt worse and better than contact. "I was happy," she said, "and bored and greedy and sorry." "You were alive," I said. "So am I." He wrote to me once through a corporate portal. words arranged to look like regret and policy had agreed on a ceasefire. He used respect and timing and asked if we could be gentlemen. I forwarded it to the lawyer and to Avi, who wrote back, "Block, breathe, boil." I boiled water and let steam write its own weather on the window. The ring sat on the counter for a week like a relic from a church I didn't attend. When the charger blinked red, I put it in a drawer with batteries and the screwdriver that fits everything, and told myself some symbols behave if they share space with tools. I changed the Wuffa password to a sentence about bridges in motion. I ironed pillowcases badly because flat cotton still felt like respect, only this time it was for a single body. I slept diagonal, the bed learning my shape again like a friend who forgives you for getting thin and then thicker, and then yourself. Once, because stories itch where they end, I went to the studio. Through the glass, her not there, him behind a different woman, the same almost touch rehearsed to competence. The mirror made copies of him that future men won't like. I stood until my reflection looked like someone else's project, and then I left. The kaffa made me another coffee I didn't finish. The street tuned itself to winter. On the day the decree arrived, it made a handsome sound against the counter. I ran my thumb over my name, then hers, as if the paper had texture where we hurt. I put fresh sheets on the bed and smoothed them with my palms until heat made the cotton shine. I set the ring and its charger in a small box and wrote "electronics" on a label because I refused to make it sacred. I walked the box to a donation bin for devices and stood there a minute, thumb on the flap, feeling ridiculous and dramatic and silly. The bin swallowed the ring with a hollow thunk that sounded like a stone dropped from a small height. Maybe it will teach another hand what not to believe. She texted on a Wednesday, "Thank you for not making me the worst thing I did." I typed, erased, and typed, "Thank you for not asking me to compete with a number." She sent a photo of a rented room with a window of clean sky and a plant that believes in its stem. I sent a photo of the river pretending to be silver and almost pulling it off. We did not flirt. We traded weather and let the forecast do the rest. Desire visits, loyal and rude. Some nights my body remembers the flex of her calf over my thigh and the soft, wordless sound she made when my mouth found heat at the source. I let memory start and stop like an honest song. I make tea and stand at the window and allow the city to do its own breathing without narrating mine. The apartment learns to be a room again. The kettle finds its note and I answer, present. I still iron pillowcases on Sundays. It's not reverence, it's maintenance. I run in the mornings until my own ringless pulse learns to speak without accompaniment. I forget her two-note chime for whole days. The basil on the sill does what it has always done, want too much and get away with it. I overwater and apologize, and it forgives me like a plant forgives indiscretion, with a new leaf, not a speech. The last time I saw her, the elevator conspired to open its doors to both of us at once. She wore a coat the color of decisions and carried a paper bag from the market with the basil tucked in like a green flag. We said hello in a register neighbor's use. She asked about sleep, and I said better, which was true and an advertisement. She didn't touch my wrist. I admired her restraint and then mine. Sometimes, out of mischief or meanness or both, I book a late-night swim at the public pool. At 2:03 a.m. the water is an honest friend. I push off the wall and count tiles and make my lungs remember childhood. My heart spikes in the dark where no device is listening. The lane line whispers along my shoulder like an old rumor I learned not to spread. I walk home wet-headed under a sky that doesn't keep scores. The apartment smells like clean cotton and the simplest candle, if I bother lighting one. I press my thumb to my wrist out of habit and listen to the unsent message there. Here, here, here. Then I sleep like a door that finally learned how to catch on the first try.